What keeps you awake at night at the moment?
Bronwyn, I'm happy to say that at this stage I'm feeling very comfortable given our strategic direction. So besides my family of 4 kids under the age of 8, nothing's keeping me awake in particular at night. I just want to make sure that our customers are receiving the best possible service from our business, and clearly growing the company is key for us.
Big regulatory changes were introduced January 2009, and those have impacted the life business across the board. Can you elaborate on how
Sure.
you've managed to adapt to work in the additional and new regulations?
Yeah, the regulatory environment changed in the investment space, with instead of an advisor receiving full upfront commission for selling an investment product, they received half upfront and half over the life of the policy. So we actually saw the world moving this way, and a couple of years before the world changed, we actually introduced a product called at that stage, the Excelsior 1000, which did exactly this, paid reduced upfront commission, more ongoing. So for us, there wasn't a massive change to be made. We already had the product in place. Interestingly, we moved ahead of the time on it, and we lost market share because of it. So once the rest of the industry fell under the same regime, our market shares actually slowly seems to be picking up this year. So sales on the investment side, while they were below last year given the economic environment, certainly I think in terms of our market share, we're starting to pick up again.
Surely it was a huge flaw in the industry, the fact that broker commission was paid upfront, given the fact that there's then a lack of accountability. I mean, I look at some of the policies that my parents have in place, and I can't believe that they managed to tie themselves into such stringent terms for very, very little return.
It's quite interesting, and I'd love to take a look at some of those policies.
I'm going to send them your way.
With pleasure, with pleasure. It's the key thing about the life industry was a forced saving. So it's to keep people, for their intended benefit, to save for 20 to 30 years for your retirement, and based on that, all penalties fell away over that time, etc. And provided the underlying investment returns were good, it was actually a model that works very, very well. Also, you get an enhanced allocation up front. So for example, if you give 100 Rand, we actually put 103 Rand in your account for you, and that extra booster, that was why there were penalties, etc., that those boosters were clawed back over time. So that was how the life industry worked.
So it wasn't an issue, there's no issue with accountability in terms of the commissions?
I think it depends on the person who you were dealing with. It always comes down to an individual. With the world changing, we went to the unit trust world, more off balance sheet, where provided you have the discipline to save for the longer term, and a unit trust offers you liquidity, which a life policy didn't offer. So with this change happening, clearly this was one of the big drivers for change. Provided an advisor is always there for you, if he's receiving an as and when commission, okay, he'll probably earn more as an as and when commission as he will than he will out of an upfront commission.
But at least you've got that ongoing relationship.
Correct.
With the person who sold you the policy.
Yeah, and that's the key thing why I think as and when is a very, very good thing to do, because as and when you pay your premiums, the advisor will receive a commission. But at the same time, from an advisor perspective, you always had the issue whereby, guys, I've got to live, I've got to eat, and if I didn't get something up front, it'll be very difficult for me to sustain a practice. I think that's why the government went halfway, so in terms of changing the regulations last year. But certainly it all comes down to an individual, and to give the right incentive to stay with a client for life. And I must emphasize, many brokers did that despite receiving a commission up front. They did remain with their clients, because as time changes, your needs change, so there is opportunities for more business. It has been a right move, and we support it.
What's your view of the standard of financial advisors in South Africa? And again, it's a broad stroke question.
Yeah. I've seen the full spectrum. I've seen some magnificent planners in the country that could hold their own against anybody in the world. They really have been phenomenal. And I've also seen advice that has not been right. So we've seen the full spectrum, and the key thing is when you spot something that's not right, corrective actions taken straight away. From a South African perspective, our regulatory controls around distribution and the requirements on financial advisors are tight. I think in general the industry is well trained and probably ranks as good as anywhere else in the world. I don't think we're worse or behind the curve at all in terms of the approaches and the systems and the governance.
Is there now a level of accountability for personal or financial advisors to dish out advice? At the end of the day, is there some level of accountability? What is the measurement in place?
I think the big measurement in place is the persistency of an advisor's book, so how their book grows over time. And also, ultimately you talk to their customers. Are they happy? Did they receive different advice as their lives changed? So when they had kids, if they had a disability, if there was a death in the family, the advisor needs to be there for them.
Do you do those surveys? Do you have some measurement in place for the financial advisors that you work with?
Absolutely. Every one of our tied advisors, before a case, firstly they receive very, very detailed training. I think it's well known. The Liberty training program is probably the top in the industry. And I think that's measured also by the fact that a lot of our competitors try to poach our agents. I mean, it's well known our training programs
How long is the training
excellent.
program?
It actually carries on. It's a number of years where there's refresher courses, probably over 3 to 5 years in total. And there's continuing refresher courses and updates, etc. But the first 2 years, it's intense training. And how we measure the guys, no case will go through without a branch manager actually checking the forms, making sure everything was submitted properly, checking the financial needs analysis was done on a client, making sure everything was appropriate. So there's double checks always in place. And we also do customer surveys. We do surveys of new clients. We do surveys of customers who leave us. So it's this continual feedback loop.